So if someone's not telling you and they're just sitting there and they're feeling upset with you or they're feeling critical of you, either they need to tell you so that you guys can work it out, or you don't need to spend any time worrying about it. What if there are things we never had the opportunity to learn? We've all been to school or training, but there are things they never taught us that actually make a powerful difference in life. I'm here to share with you all the pieces you've been missing: mindset, health, success, and more. And we'll all learn together from guests along the way. We may not have learned it the traditional way, but oh my goodness, let's keep learning how to do things differently. OMG Teach Me Tribe. I am back with you today, and we have a topic today that really is something that I have struggled with a lot in my life. And my thought is, if I've struggled with it, then somebody out there has probably struggled with it as well. So let's see if you agree with me, and let's see if I can help us, you and me both, solve this issue. And that is, this is sort of related to FOMO, and FOMO is fear of missing out, but that is always worrying about what other people might be saying about us, or feeling like we're missing out on a conversation, or feeling like people know something that I don't know, or they must be talking about me. I would lump all of that into the same bucket. And so I'm betting as you're hearing me describe those things, you've felt like this at some point in your life. At some point in your life, you have been sort of on the outskirts of a group of people, and there's been a conversation going on, and you've thought you heard your name, or you wondered kind of why they were glancing over at you, but you couldn't hear what they were saying, and it made you panic a little bit. What are they saying about me? Do I have something on my face? Did I zip my pants? Whatever it is, it makes us very nervous when these situations happen. Or maybe it's not an in-person conversation. Maybe it's a social media thing where you are wondering if people are chatting amongst themselves online without you, or you see some type of joke that you don't understand and it makes you kind of stress that you don't get it. Have you been left out of something? Or you see people going places and doing things and you think, well, I would have wanted to go and do that. Why didn't they invite me? Oh, they don't like me. They didn't invite me and they must not like me. And I bet they're there at this fun event and they're talking about me. All of those stem from kind of the same thing. And so if you resonate with that at all, let's talk about it, because I hope that I'm going to be able to help you out so that next time you get yourself into a situation like that, and actually, let's not say get yourself into, these are just things that happen in life, right? Next time something like that happens, you'll know what to do. You'll be able to handle it and you'll be able to kind of redirect the energy. All right, ready? Here we go. Now, this, as I said, happens to me a lot. And I think for me, it's because I was kind of a nerd a little bit when I was in school. And sometimes I describe myself as like the smart kid who kind of made it into the still kind of fun group in school. I wasn't in like the super nerd gang of people, but I surely wasn't in the popular gang of people either. And I just saw Mean Girls recently with my daughter. So I'm thinking in terms of the cliques and everything in school. But because I felt sometimes socially unsure of myself, maybe I wasn't always able to catch on to trends right away or understand what the cool thing was to do. For example, when I sent in information to college before I was a freshman, I had to fill out forms. Back then we did it on paper, but I had to fill out forms, just information about me. I never paid attention to what it was about. And it said, what do you like to do? And I put read and something else. And it turned out that information was going into the freshman lookbook. And so people were saying, see a movie, go to a concert. And I was like, read. And I just thought, okay, I'm still the same person. I'm not quite in the hip group. And because I had that kind of hanging over my head, and that might be not your story at all, but we, you know what, we all have something where we kind of judge ourselves, right? And we think maybe we're not quite with it in some aspect of our lives or another's, because we're all hard on ourselves. But because that was my story, I would get worried if it felt like I wasn't in the middle of something that was going on near me. And thank heavens, when I was a teenager and when I was in college, social media was not a thing. Those of you who have gone through school and college with social media, I think it's really even more challenging right now. And I feel for you. And if you are really struggling with this and it's affecting your mental health, please talk to a counselor, talk to a parent, talk to a friend, find a professional to help you, because there is help. But if it's not quite to that level, and you just find yourself always thinking like, why wasn't I included in that group? Like, they went out to happy hour and I never heard about it. Or you're maybe all together in a house and a few people have broken off in the kitchen and they're chit-chatting and having a good time, and you're not in the kitchen and you're wondering what's going on in the kitchen. I have two things for you. Number one, most people, most of the time, including you and me, are far more focused on ourselves than on talking about, laughing about, criticizing anyone else. So when we are feeling this way and feeling very uncertain and worrying if other people are talking about us or laughing about us or thinking we're ridiculous, that's us being focused on ourselves. But what I'm saying is they probably aren't doing what you think they're doing, because they're not going to be focused on you or me. They're focused on themselves. That group of people in the kitchen that you can't hear what they're talking about is probably laughing about something to do with being in the kitchen. Or the group of people that went to happy hour, maybe they all happened to run into each other, or two of them ran into each other and the other one said, oh, I've been meaning to get together with Susie. And one of them said, well, let's just all three go. And it was never meant to be something where you were left out. And it was never meant to be a situation where you should feel bad. Or it was never a situation where they were talking or laughing about you. 90% of the time, I made that statistic up, but most of the time, they are not focused on you. They're focused on themselves and what they're doing. And they're probably talking about something that has nothing to do with you. And I mean that in a positive way. So when we get very self-conscious and very worried about the fact that they're talking about me and, oh, now they're laughing. What if they're laughing at me? I have had that thought so many times in my life. I wish I had $1 for every time I had that thought. And then later, when I'm out of the situation, I say to myself, well, why would they be laughing at me? Why did I think that? And for me, it's because I always kind of felt I was a little bit nerdy and maybe I had done something that didn't make any sense and people thought it was silly. Our brains are not always nice to us. But what I'm saying is they're laughing because something is funny that they were talking about, and it's probably not you. It's probably something that happened to them right at that moment, or in a book they read, or in their lives, or on a TikTok video that they were just watching, or a story that someone told. It's probably not about you. So that's my first tool for you to see if I can help you through when we get kind of stuck in our head about, oh, why are they down the hall and they're laughing? It must be about me. Something was probably funny. And why are they off on their own? Well, maybe they got into a little side conversation and one person said, oh, I have something I could recommend to you for that. Come down here and I'll show you. Or somebody said, oh, I got to do the dishes. And somebody else said, I'll come help you. Oh, don't everybody else, don't worry. Don't worry. They probably really mean that. Don't worry. We've got it. And then they're going to go enjoy themselves while they do that thing. But again, it's not negative towards us most of the time. So there's tool number one. They're probably not thinking about us. And ask yourself this, if you don't necessarily believe me, how often are you talking with your friends or messaging with your friends and criticizing or laughing about somebody else? I feel like this Teach Me tribe is a bunch of kind, caring people. I hope that you are. I think that you are. You're trying to always make yourselves better. You're listening to this for advice. So, how often are you really spending tearing other people down and messaging about that or posting about that or talking about that? I don't think you are. And probably when things come up and somebody says, "Oh, did you hear about Susie? Oh my goodness." You're probably not even spending time on that. Or maybe you're even saying, "Oh, yeah, I don't want to, I don't want to speak poorly of someone." That's probably what your friends are doing too. They're not focused on you and they're not laughing at you almost always. So that's number one. Gut health is such a huge part of living healthy. When I learned that the health of our gut affects our hormone levels, how our digestion works, what we absorb into our body in terms of nutrients, and even how our brains work, I was surprised. Every morning, I started using a Green Gut Glow drink to make sure that I was taking care of my brain, skin, nail, hair, gut, and making sure I get enough veggies because I don't know if I would eat enough otherwise. I have felt a difference minimizing puffiness and bloating for sure. Go have a look at omgteachme.com/recommendations and look for the Green Gut Glow Plus. Number two, let's flip it around. Even if they are talking about you, criticizing you, laughing at you, that one is really a kicker for me. It's really not our business because our self-image, our self-definition doesn't come from what other people think about us or say about us. And following along with that, how would we even know what other people think about us? And most of the time, we don't know what other people say about us. How would we know that? Especially, how would we know what they think about us? We often tell ourselves that we know what they think about us. We don't, and we never will. We don't know what other people really think. We never know the full story, and we do not know what's going on in other people's brains, and they don't know what you think about them. But here's the thing. It's not our business what they think about us. And to me, this concept is both really empowering and kind of almost unbelievable. Why would that not be my business? It's about me. You can't control what somebody else thinks about you. You cannot. You cannot ever. You can be the best you live in the best way in terms of your definition of that, treat people in the best way, and you have no control over what they think about you. People misinterpret situations all the time. You could be the most amazing, giving, loving person in the world who is ultra cool all the time, and somebody might have thought you did something weird, and they might think you're a little bit odd occasionally. You'll never know, number one, and it's not up to them, and whatever they think, we think that they think. I think I said too many things. That doesn't define us. So if someone has an issue with me, or if someone has an issue with you, then it is their responsibility to tell you and to talk about it. And I saw this on Instagram. I think it was recently, as of the time I'm recording this, it was recently. It wasn't that exact quote, but basically it was, don't spend any time worrying about what other people think about us. If they have a problem with us, then it's that person's responsibility to talk to us about it. If someone's upset with me, this is someone that, let's say I'm in a friendship or a relationship or family with, if someone's upset with me, oh my goodness, I want them to tell me so that we can talk about it. This has happened in my family where we've talked things out and it's so much better. So much better. So if someone's not telling you and they're just sitting there and they're feeling upset with you or they're feeling critical of you, either they need to tell you so that you guys can work it out, or you don't need to spend any time worrying about it, period. So number one, most people are not thinking about you anyway. Number two, even if they are, even if you missed out on a conversation where people were saying, that Cheryl, she is wearing the strangest outfit today. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they get to think what they want. And if I feel good about my outfit, to use that example, then I should keep going and feeling good about my outfit. It doesn't matter. Now, I understand that both of those pieces of advice might be a little hard to immediately start doing right away. So let's just talk about it a little bit more. Sometimes we get a little bit stuck in what I would call adolescent thinking. And I'm not trying to diss teenagers at all, or diss you and tell you you're acting like a teenager, whichever way you want to look at it. This is brain development. When I became a teacher years ago, one of the courses I needed to take to switch careers to teaching was about brain development. And I can't remember the name of the course now, but that's what it was about. The different phases of how our brains develop, because it was coming from the angle of how we're able to learn and what we're able to learn and how our brain is going to absorb information. And I found it to be a fascinating class just for life. Oh my goodness, that might be where the seeds of what I do now were planted. Now that I think about it, I've just had that realization right in this moment. Anyway, what I learned was that in the adolescent stage, and the exact age varies person to person, our brains develop on slightly different timelines. This is typically the teen years, but it can go into the 20s, it can be late teens, it can be earlier teens. But there's a stage of brain development where it's kind of like the adolescent stage, and this is how our brains are operating. And just as an aside, if you are a parent of a middle schooler, one of the toughest things that I worked with students and parents on was what level math to take in what grade. And if you're a parent of a kid who's middle school or older, you probably know what I'm talking about. As a math teacher, this was just a big, big, big thing. We were always trying to figure out, when should they start Algebra 1? And sometimes it becomes a race, doesn't it? My kid has to start in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, whatever, because otherwise they'll be behind, and otherwise somebody will be ahead, and otherwise they won't be able to take calculus, and they won't be able to this and that and the other thing. And I don't want to get too far off track because this is not what I'm supposed to be talking about, but here's my PSA. It's not a race. And if we put kids into informal reasoning math classes, which is what Algebra 1 is, it's the start of using variables, and math is not only about just the number anymore. If their brains aren't ready to be able to do that kind of reasoning, it's going to be a really bad experience. And unfortunately, those kind of experiences right in that middle school period of time can sour a person on math forever. And maybe that was your story. And if so, I'm sorry about that. So schools are really, really most of the time, honestly, trying to figure out what is your child's brain ready for. And I hope that has been an easy decision for you and for your child. It's not a race, and everybody's going to be so much happier if you can hit it at the right time when their brain is ready for that. But let me get off my soapbox and get on to a different soapbox. So this adolescent brain period is when the world is kind of egocentric. And by that, I mean, I am the center of my world. You are the center of your world. Almost all the time, everything is focused on ourselves, how things are coming at us and affecting us. We are our world. It's just brain development. And as we go into our 20s, and again, at varying ages, because everybody's different, we start to be able to change our perspective. And we start to be able to see things a little bit more easily from other people's perspective. We start to be able to see the big picture about things that affect us and how they affect other people. And our brains just are able to do it differently. But we all fall back into this sort of egocentric thinking sometimes. And so that's sort of what we're talking about in today's episode. When we are feeling maybe a little unsure of ourselves, or memories of like me being too dorky, or, somehow being left out, or some experience that we might have had when we were younger that makes us feel uncertain and unsure, sometimes we can lapse back into this thinking, and we can put ourselves in the middle of our entire world, and we can assume that things going on around us must be about us. And so sometimes that's where these worries and concerns come from. If a few of my friends are over there having a conversation, or they're having a bit of a text chat and I'm not in it, it must be about me. And so here's your 2 steps. Number 1, it's probably not about you. It's probably about them. And number 2, if it is about you, it's not really any of your business to try to figure out what they think about you. And let's just go a step further with that. If you happen to discover that people in your life are really talking about you, criticizing you, putting you down, speaking kind of behind your back all the time, I really want you to take a moment and ask yourself if your relationship with that person or those people is a good one for you. And I'm going to leave that there as sort of food for thought, because maybe this is family, right? And I'm not saying disown your family. Maybe this is a relationship that you are not prepared to leave or let kind of fall to the wayside. But I want us always to be thinking about, is this relationship a good one for me? Does being with this person make me feel happy and empowered and supported? And do I want to do the same for them? Because coming together, whether it's friends or it's romantic relationship or family, ideally we're even better together. And so I just really want you to think about that. Also, go back and listen to last week's episode when we talked about a relationship detox, because if you're hearing that and you're thinking, oh, maybe they are talking about me, but maybe this is not really a person that I want to have in my life quite so often or quite so intensely, go and listen to that episode because it may help. Okay, this is not something that you can just flip a switch and you can just change how you think in one day. So please don't ask that of yourself. But I want you to have me in your ear the next time you feel like you've been left out of something and they must be talking about you, or they must be laughing about you, or why are they having fun without you? It must be that they're making fun of you. I want to be in your ear or in your head saying, number 1, they're probably not talking about you, because we're very focused on ourselves or on our present situation or something we just saw that was funny. And number 2, even if they are, it's not our job to guess what people think about us. It's our job to know who we are and be that person to the best we can. And if they have a problem, it's their job to talk to us so we can either solve it or just figure out how to move forward. So I hope that those 2 pieces of advice have helped you. Believe me, I am still going to get FOMO sometimes when somebody is down the hall talking and I don't know what's going on. I'm also kind of a big listener. I like to listen to conversations, not really to eavesdrop, just because I like to hang out and listen, see what people are talking about. So another reason maybe I fall into this trap sometimes. If I can't hear, I get worried. But I hope that this helps. Tell me, drop me a note, connect with me on social media. I'm curious to see if this helps you, and have a great one. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. OMG, I would be so honored if you would take a moment, leave a rating, leave a review, or take a screenshot and share on your social media. Let's get this message out further into the world. Now it's time to head down to the show notes to see the resources I mentioned. We may not have learned this before, but it sure is powerful now.